So now we are moving ahead to the Jupiter Dasha. After the Rahu, Jupiter really it is required, because all the adventure you have done in the Rahu Dasha, now you have to enjoy the things. And that is why Rahu is just initial stage of your spiritual growth. The Jupiter is a real where you link with the Guru, you link, because Rahu start with the fear. It has started with the fear, whereas the Jupiter will start with the real knowledge of a spirituality. So Jupiter is a growth. In my so many videos also I say it's a growth. So after you have done all the work of a Rahu Dasha, of all your inner conscious, whatever, now you want to grow. Now you want a right path. Jupiter is also a guru, like your guru, yeah, your elders, your families. So now you again get a support of your families. You value your families, and thereby your growth start. Whether it is a financial growth, whether it is a knowledge growth, whether it is your family growth, your wife, spouse, children, anything. But in Kali Yuga, because this is a Kali Yuga, this is not a Satyug. So in Kali Yuga, the Jupiter Dasha doesn't have much power. Why? Because the growth, whatever the growth happens, it creates a more need, more greediness. So sometime in the Jupiter Dasha, even though people having so much thing, wealth, everything, they are still not satisfied. But one thing is sure during the Jupiter Dasha is that the person always follow the right path. Even though Jupiter is weak in the chart, it is debilitated, affected with the malefic planet, person will not leave his own path. That is a great thing, or sanskara. We call it as a sanskara, sacrament. So it's a kind of a sanskara that Jupiter has. So whatever your guru has taught, your parents has taught, your family you are following, that right path you follow during Jupiter Dasha. And that is why this is a right opening place for spiritual growth or religious growth. Normally Jupiter, I believe, is a religious growth rather than the spiritual, because spiritual growth comes after the religious growth. So after the growth of all, then you need your own growth. So those who are going into the temple, those who are going into the bhajana or kirtana or all kind of a religious activity is a Jupiter. And after the religious, that's the Saturn that gives the spirituality or inner depth. So Jupiter will grow certain environment surrounding to you with the rising mode. So see, in our body, in our chart also, there is a 5 house. The Jupiter is a Karaka. 2 house, it's a sign place. 1 sign, its own place. And 3 house, its aspect. Almost 10 to 11 houses affected with the Jupiter. So when Jupiter Dasha comes, almost out of your 12 house, your 9, 10 or 11 house get activated automatically, directly or indirectly. And that is why all the houses bring some or the other growth. Somewhere the Jupiter is a Karaka, significant. Somewhere the Jupiter is a owner, there's a lord of that house. Somewhere Jupiter has place, somewhere Jupiter is aspecting. So this all different dimension count into the 9, 10 houses, which is automatically grow during the Jupiter Dasha. And that is why the conclusion of a Jupiter Dasha is a growth. Overall, you will find a growth in all the sense. So that is my viewpoint of Jupiter Dasha. You may share your views, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Dharmesh. Again, everything you're saying really resonating. I was born in Jupiter Dasha, my moon in Vishaka, and ninth house position. So always been very inclined to religion and spirituality my whole life. And the many things that you point out, I am just going to say them exactly the same, but just in different words. First is that Jupiter is guru. And a lot of times when we hear guru, we think of someone who, a Brahmin, which is in a temple, or someone of enlightenment. But guru just means teacher.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so when we talk about Jupiter Dasha, it is one of the greatest dasha for education. The specific
Knowledge.
type of education being spiritual or religious education, because Jupiter is Guru Deva. But one thing that Dr. Dharmesh said, which I completely agree, is it's also about the moral and the ethical evolution. There's an evolution outside of religion, which is about being a better person, doing good deeds, doing acts of kindness, being selfless, humanitarian, and generous. And all of these energies get much stronger throughout the Jupiter Dasha. So on the Guru side of it is the full moral and ethical evolution. On the Guru Deva on the side of it is the more spiritual and religious side of the evolution. Now, also with Jupiter Mahadasha, it come after Rahu Dasha, which means you're ready for Jupiter Dasha when it comes. 99.9% of people you talk to at the end of their Rahu Dasha, they're ready to throw party when Jupiter Dasha begin. That is because they are so now find themselves through the hard path, and now they are ready to be that self. But the thing is about the guru is we think of the guru as someone outside of ourselves. For example, my Sadguru Amritananda Mahima, she is a saint from Kerala. She just goes around, does service, does hugs, and this is great darshan. But that is the guru outside of us, but she is there to show us the guru inside of us, that all of us have this divine energy, that all of us have this divine realization. And all of the great teachers, whether the great Hindu saints, even Jesus Christ, the great Christian leader, he had this same message that the divine light is inside of us. So the Jupiter Dasha is the realization of, yes, honoring our teachers, learning higher education, moral, ethical evolution, spiritual evolution. But I think on the deepest level, it's the realization of the guru inside of ourselves, which is the realization of the wisdom inside of ourselves, which is the awareness of the light and the divine energy, which is moved through our system. So it's the guru outside of us, which is the teacher, but also the guru inside of our soul, the higher self within.
Right. Very true. Very true. Great.
So next we will move on and from Jupiter Dasha to discuss Saturn Dasha. Saturn Dasha is my current Mahadasha. It's also my ruling planet of Aquarius ascendant. And
Wow.
and as Saturn is Kṣaṇāti, the slow mover planet. And of all of the Navagraha, it's the farthest away from Surya, and it's also the planet which moved the slowest, scientifically speaking.
Right.
So from this perspective, Saturn Dasha is here to teach us patience. And it says that no spiritual change or growth manifests without Saturn. So you have intellectual knowledge from Mercury. You have spiritual wisdom from Jupiter. But that doesn't mean that you've manifested that change. That doesn't mean that you've integrated. Maybe you might have learned or read about it in a book. Maybe your great teacher might have handed down some wisdom to you. But that doesn't mean that you have done anything with it. Done anything with that knowledge, that you have done anything with that wisdom. And Saturn represents the mundane world. And
Yes.
if you look at the glyph, the Western glyph of Saturn, it's a cross with the anchor, with the hook attached to the bottom of it. And that hook is into the mundane world. That hook is into this the service and the responsibilities that are required of us during this life. So I think that Saturn Dasha is the planet which offers us virtue. That Jupiter is not actually virtue, even though Jupiter teaches us what virtue is, but you can't become a virtue just by learning about what it is. You have to be tested. You have to be challenged. You cannot become patient if your patience is not tested. You cannot become humble if your humility is not tested. So here comes Saturn Dasha to test your patience, to test your humility, to test your acceptance. And I believe that if you pass the test of Saturn, then Saturn will reward you beyond the greatest imagination of any graha. But the thing is Saturn only gives you what you deserve, which means you have to earn it, which means you have to work for it. You have to put in your time. You have to put in your hours. And Saturn is the Shudra, which means the servant or the slave. And what happens when we're working as a servant or slave? We do not get the reward. We do not get the recognition, or the reward or recognition is not how we thought it would look.
Right.
Even in my own Saturn Dasha, I have come to know all of these amazing astrologers and study in-depth and advanced astrology, but it is still hard to pay the rent. So sometimes the rewards are different than the how you would want them to be. And Saturn is also called Mahakala. It's the great Lord of time. So when we have our human understanding of time, which is mostly artificial, our structure of time is a pretty good guess, but our time is connected towards our desires. For example, when we start something, there's a certain amount of time that we expect to finish it. When we want something, there's a certain amount of time that we expect to get it. But that is our will.
Right.
That is not God's will. So Saturn is also, Dasha is also about surrender to God's will. But the strongest way that shows up is through time. Because our will is connected towards our time and our desires. When we want things to happen in. And usually people with very difficult Saturn experience, they have certain timeline that they want something to happen in, and it is not happening in the timeline that they desire. Now, on a deeper level, it's teaching them patience. But if they can't be patient, they'll never achieve what they're going to strive for. That's why one of my
very true
used to say, Saturn is a planet that delays, but it does not deny. And I even go further, that Saturn is a planet that delays, but it also guarantees. But so because when you receive that thing, that you finally are completely deserving. Your karma is that you are meant to receive that. So it is sustainable. For example, if a marriage is to happen and Saturn being the activator of the marriage, then the person will probably never have divorce. However, if other planets are activating of the marriage, there can be more indication of divorce. Even though the person might not get married until they're 30 or 40 years old. Or maybe they get married to an older person who's 5-10 years older than them. But it still ends up being sustainable versus something which is going to be more fluctuating. So Saturn delays, it teaches us patience, but there is no spiritual growth or change manifest without Saturn. I believe Dasha is one of the greatest for the spiritual growth in terms of how can we manifest all of our knowledge and wisdom into actual service.
Right. Very true. Add on to your things, you have covered the maximum and all the points of my. But one thing is different from the Saturn is that there are three ways of learning. There are three ways of learning. One is by reading a book. While person reading the book is a Mercury, because his knowledge is only going his mind. He's not understanding. While listening the others, like a Guru Shishya, it is by Jupiter. And by experience of own self or experience by the life is a Saturn. So Saturn gives you the actual experience of the nature. So that is why the Saturn Dasha is very much required. It's like discipline. Saturn need a discipline. See what happened, we all call Shani is a Surya Putra, means is a child of a sun. And who's a child of a sun have a same energy of a sun. Sun we believe as a highly regular, the Saturn is also very regular planet. What happened? That sun only shows the things. It show you, go and see, this is the fruit. But to go to that place, to take the fruits and eat, is a Saturn. And sun only believe its own child, that is a Saturn. See, all the planets has came out of sun only. We all believe that one after another, that planet has come out from the sun. But the first object come out from the sun is a Saturn. And that is why we call as a Surya Putra Shani. It's a child of a sun. We don't call others as a child, even though they are come from the sun only. But we only believe and call that Shani is Saturn is a son of a sun. So how sun is regular, Saturn is that much also regular. Sun will only show you the soul deeds are done by the Saturn. So all the judgment, that is why lawyer, advocate, judgment people always wear the black things or black clothes, because that is a Saturn, right? And Saturn is always for the judgment. So on the day of judgment, the Saturn always activates. So what you learn from the life is a Saturn. He doesn't like a theoretical knowledge. He gives you exactly the circumstances and say you write paper here. It will not give you a question paper. It will give you a situation. It will give you and put you in the situation where you have to come out. There is no help from the others. And that is why for Saturn, I always say that certain people always learn with their own experience. They never follow anyone. They follow their own instinct. They always go with their own deeds. They don't believe that somebody will come and give them something. No. In fact, they go and dig. Like example, somebody want a water, they'll call their servant, oh, bring the water. And somebody will bring water and he will drink. No, Saturn is not like that. Saturn will go dig the well, take the water and then drink. So that is a sweat of bro. I say it's a sweat of bro. When you work hard now, there's a sweat comes on here. So Saturn is nothing but the sweat of bro. And for Saturn, all the deeds, you and yourself is only enjoying. You and yourself is only a karta. So during the Saturn Dasha, the person become isolated. I've seen many people say that everybody has left me. See, that's Sunny Sadesati also come for everybody's life after 27 years when the Saturn again return to their moon 12th house. So what happened, that is also a form by which it warn you that, see, control your emotion, otherwise I will punish you. And during the Sunny Sadesati, the first phase is always mental, then second is physical, and third is a financial. Same way in the Saturn Dasha also, he'll say, become independent. Don't depend on anyone. And as you say, Sanishcharai Nama, it is move very slowly because it is very far. It is now from sun, it is very far and its movement has slowed down. And that is why it's giving a result after so long efforts. For Saturn, you have to put 1, 2, 3. How many number of attempts you have to put, you don't know. And that is why people who are whose Saturn is not powerful, they get scared when Saturn Dasha or Sadesati comes. But in actual, I've seen those who are very work hard, workaholic, they never scare with the Saturn. Those who are ready to work, Saturn is ready to give the result. And that is why, same way as you say, delay but sure. The Saturn always delay the result, but Saturn always, I say, it gives a necessity base, not need base. Your need may be so many things, but your necessity is what that you get. That is why the best example of Saturn we always give as a beggars. All the beggars and poors comes under the Saturn. But even they are begging, even they are depending on somebody else, they still get the food according to their necessity. Today, if we want, as a healthy person, he need 2200 calories from morning to evening. He will get that surety Saturn gives. So during a Saturn Dasha, one should have a patience. One should have a that belief that yes, I will get. Even though whenever you get, that is the right time. It's not your time because in Shani, The Saturn we also call as a Kal. Kal means a time. So it always gives on its own time. You live, we live in this earth, so we follow the sun time, but Saturn gives his own time. And that is why people get very frustrated when the Saturn doesn't give them on the spot. It never gives on the spot. See, suppose you get 100 rupees work, and if you get 100 rupees, then you will not work tomorrow. He will only give out of 100 rupees, it will give you only 50 rupees on your hand, and 50 rupees it will balance for next time. Whenever you are in the problem, it will again give you back. So that always you have a safe side that your deeds will be paid. And that surety Saturn gives, that one day your deeds I will pay you. Just have a patience, wait for the time, and when the necessity arises, not your need, when your necessity arises, Saturn gives like anything. I seen the people having during Saturn Dasha, they flourish like anything. Why? Because in other time they have worked very well. If your Saturn Dasha falls after the age of 36, it is a lottery for you. If comes before the 36, it will give you so much hardship. But if the Saturn Dasha falls after the age of 36, you are lucky. Immediately it is comes and gives you the result. So that I've seen so many charts, and that is my experience about the Saturn Dasha.
It's amazing how you describe the thoughts that are in my mind and say exactly how I feel in a very unique way. Just like you say sweat of the brow, I say Saturn is paying your dues, which also you said to get back the resilience, which means if you fall back on the horse, to get back on the horse. And one other thing that you talk about that's also Saturn makes you feel lonely, and you can feel everyone has left me. But one of my great teachers, Dr. Vasant Lad, he said, there is no greater difference than loneliness and being alone. So part of the spiritual maturity with Saturn is that it teaches us to be alone without being lonely. And also Dr. Mehta talk about not being dependent on others, not being on the need of others. So this is very important, this need to be independent. And last thing, which also Dr. Dharmesh say, which also resonant, is the relationship between the Sun and Saturn. And yes, all of the graha come out of the Sun, and there is no planet which is more brilliant, which is more celestial than Surya. Yes, but Saturn was the son of Surya. And so it is always in the shadow of the Sun. It is always in the shadow. But guess, I've looked under Saturn under a telescope, and it has these beautiful rings. And
22 wings.
Saturn shines in its own way. I don't think that I think that it's easier to see the brilliant light which emanate from Surya, but the rings of Saturn are just as beautiful as the light of the sun. And it says in the ancient sutra, the shadow of Saturn is so great, is so blessed and mighty that it will cover over the light of Surya. So this is also the potential that Saturn can shine even brighter than Sun. This is possible.
Yes, very much. Yeah. Then we can move to the last, Mercury. You may start. I'll add on.
When we go into Mercury, Mercury is Buddhayaha, the emblem of intelligence, and it is connected to Buddhi, which is the discretionary factor of our consciousness, that which analyze, computates, or understand, aka our rational or our logical part of our mind. And a lot of the good friends and astrologers I know, they have strong Mercury energy because it's about analysis, it's about understanding. The Buddhi, when it receives some kind of information, it analyzes and understands it. So people with strong Mercury, their very intellectual capacity is strong. Their comprehensive and understanding capacity is strong. And also on a deeper, more spiritual level, Mercury is the messenger of the gods. So I think all of us has a message which our soul carries. And very interesting, Sun and Mercury often travel together, and Sun is also connected to the soul. But what is the message which we carry? But this goes through many stages of evolution. And depending on the dignity and position, functional, benefic, malefic position of Mercury, the expression, the communication, the intelligence of the individual, it's either going out in a beautiful exponential way, or they're having challenges with their expression. And from a spiritual healing perspective, the throat chakra, it becomes blocked, which means the throat chakra, it either spins too slowly, which means the person does not have the confidence to say what they want to say, or the throat chakra is spinning too quickly, which means they don't know how to stop talking. They don't know when to shut up. So there is this strong vibration here, which Mercury, which is the evolution of our communication, the evolution of our intelligence, and unlocking of the messenger energy within our life. But this is Mercury Dasha. Sometimes that unlocking of the messenger energy, it can be very uncomfortable. I believe the first step is to understand what your message is. The thing is that with Mercury, you have to understand that message logically, rationally, intellectually. We had Jupiter Dasha, Saturn Dasha, Rahu Dasha, which come before this, where all sorts of understanding come through, but none of them are buddhi oriented. As you get into the understanding of the Mercury, the knowledge is buddhi oriented. So how can I actually express what I have to say, which might be the wisdom that you've learned through Saturn, Jupiter, and Rahu? How do I express that wisdom through speaking? How do I express that wisdom through writing? Maybe if Mercury is with Venus or Venus sign, how can I express that through creativity? Also, once we understand what the message is, something that Jupiter taught us a long time ago, which I think one time we call Mercury the professor. And once you have what your message is, you also have to represent that message. You have to be the message. You can't be a hypocrite. You can't have a message and then live your life in a different way. So this is where a lot of the blocks with Mercury and the communication come in. You might know what your message is, but if you can't be that message, no one is going to want to listen to you. No one is going to be able to listen to you. How can you even listen to yourself, spiritually speaking, if you're not a representation of the message what you carry? So then after you become the message, that's when you share the message. That's when you speak the message. That's when you write the message, and that's when everyone listens to the message. That means listens to your speaking, listens to your book, listens to your writings, listens to anything you have to share. Not because you have the knowledge, but because you are the knowledge. And I think the Mercury Dasha can help us not only see what our message is, become that message, but usually by the end of the Dasha, the person, if it's in a good position, is actively expressing and communicating their message.
Right, right. Yeah, very well said. That's a whole coverage of a Mercury you have done, Buddha. Adding to one or two lines only, that normally on the 80% people have the Mercury combust. Normally, because it's as you said very well, that is always moving with the sun. So now what happened that it might be a combust, and during the combustion, if somebody is having a Mercury combustion, you have to follow the sun, because Mercury is totally surrendered to the sun. So now this Mercury Dasha, what you mean as a Mercury Dasha, is not giving as Mercury but as giving as a sun. So that mistake people normally make, even though knowing that is a combust. And the rule for combustion says, if it is combust, it has surrendered, it has bowed to the sun. Now look at the sun. Now sun has a principle. Now it will give the result. So first of all, that you have to see how the Mercury is placed. Sometimes it is a retrograde. There's a three conditions: either is combust or either it will retrograde. So if it is retrograde, you have a something different brain than others. During your Mercury Dasha, you will communicate you read the message, as you say, with a different meaning. And because of your grasping power, you understand more deeply. So retrogression of Mercury plays a very important role. Only the planet which combusts and retrograde together is also a Mercury, and because of the combustion and the retrogression, you are always underestimating such a person. So first of all, you have to see how the situation of a Mercury there in the chart. And normally, as you said, the Mercury is a buddhi, right? It's a real word of a buddhi, but in the English version it says the gray matter. See, we all know, we all have a brain. It's a shape of a walnut, and there is a deep, deep this shape are there, and in shape the liquid or fluid is there. That fluid is called as a gray matter, and Mercury is a karak or significant of that gray matter. Everybody have a same shape and same weight of a brain, but everybody's brain work differently on the basis of a gray matter. So Mercury basically believes on the depending on the gray matter, and that is why we call buddhi or application of mind. See, everybody have a mind, but everybody doesn't have an application. How to apply the brain?
Yeah.
So if your Mercury is a powerful, your application is so strong. You understand, as we say, you read the message, you get the message, you read the message, you decode the message, and you reply also. So that way, the Mercury is in the sequence of a Ketu, it is the last dasha. Normally, those who born in the Ketu, Sun, Ketu, Venus, Sun, and Moon, they hardly get the Mercury dasha. Those who born from Mars dasha, they may get the Mercury dasha in their life. So, in the sequence of dasha, it is the last dasha, and at last, if it is the last dasha, like Aslesha, Jyeshta, and Revati, there is the last nakshatra of that series. As Revati is the last nakshatra of all constellations, here is the last planet. At least, at last, you should understand something. Is the message of a Mercury dasha. After Saturn dasha, this comes. So Saturn dasha makes you physically active. Now you don't have to work physically, work smartly. And today's generation, they work smart. They don't work hard work. So this Mercury should be very powerful during your education time, as well as during your business and trading time, commercial activity time. That is why it's a karaka of a 4th house and 10th house. 4th house, you need your brain during your education, and while you are doing something, you need a brain. So entire Mercury dasha, you can control every situation by your mind or application of mind. That's beauty about the Mercury dasha. See, Mercury is also a planet of greenery. We all believe as a greenery. So it always gives something new, a bird to bloom. So whatever the idea seeded inside you during the Saturn dasha, that all the ideas will come back in the Mercury dasha, and you will enjoy this. And Mercury is the only closest planet of the Sun. So after the enlightenment, Sun is enlightenment. After the enlightenment, your brain start working. That's a combination of Sun and Mercury, and that is why the galaxy of the Sun, all the planets, this Mercury follows more to the Sun. And as like the Sun, how heated it is, we don't know how much heat it is. The Mercury is also very heated planet because it's close to the Sun. If you don't believe, just touch your head, it is hot only. So that is a live example of Mercury. So that's about the Mercury dasha. So this is all about the Mercury dasha. So you may add something, or you can compile everything.
Amazing. I just want to emphasize everything you said about the gray matter, which from an Ayurvedic perspective is sadhaka. Sadhaka Pitta. And there are 5 major sites of Pitta. And one of the major sites of Pitta is sadhaka, which is the gray matter of the brain. This is deeply connected to Mercury. And so it's very interesting because Mercury is considered a tridoshic planet. But one thing that Dr. Mehta mentioned, which I agree and is known, is that Mercury is easily influenced. The planet that it travels with the most is Surya, so it's most influenced by the sun. The sun is a Pitta planet. So a lot of times Mercury takes on these Pitta qualities, especially when it's combust or very close to the sun, because as Dharmesh ji mentioned, Mercury is surrendering to Surya. It is giving its energy over.
Yeah.
That also means if Mercury is conjunct with another planet, it is also easily influenced by that other graha. And the closer the conjunction, the more willing it is to give its surrender over to that energy, like it does with the sun. Sun is the common energy. But let's say Mercury is with Rahu, then Rahu have heavy influence on the natal Mercury. And the Mercury can act more like Rahu. Or with Venus even. And then the last thing I want to say is that this part of the brain, the sadhaka, it also rules wit, which is Mercury is the lord of comedy and is the lord of humor. And Mercury has a great sense of humor because good humor is to understand something quickly. And the best comedians, they understand something quickly and then quickly they will make other statement that will make everybody laugh. This is because of sadhaka pitta. It's the buddhi, it's the Mercury, it's the intellectual capacity of the brain. And I think one of the most beautiful, that Mercury dasha, over the course of the dasha, the person's sense of humor should get better and better as well.
Yes, yes, very much.
In Saturn Dasha, you might cry, but in Mercury Dasha, you're much more likely to laugh.
Yeah. After the hard work, now you are doing smart work. We are relaxed. So this is all about the Dasha and how beautifully, how differently it is given. I like the sequence. I only like the sequence and in the yearly wise also and as per the planetary wise also. So one has to 50% take a stress of birth dasha, because from his own birth dasha, his sequence will start. Maybe from Saturn he start, maybe from Mercury he start, maybe from Sun it start, or anywhere. So the sequence from where you stand, from where you born, your sequence will start, whether good or whether bad. Sometimes it happens that sequence is good, like second dasha, fourth dasha, but planet is bad, like Saturn or Rahu or Mars. So it happens that with the good sequence, bad planet also comes, and maybe a bad planet in good sequence. So you have to combine all both the things and both results simultaneously. What I believe.
100%. And another way of saying exactly what Dr. Dharmesh said is when we're looking at the Jyotish, we're looking at a map of the soul's karma. And then when you look at these dasha in alignment with the gochar, with the transit, you're looking at the culmination or the fruit of the karma, of the manifestation of the karma. So when you're looking at the birth dasha, you're looking at the karmic evolution starting point for the entire lifetime, which indicates the karmic evolution potential from the moment of birth for the entire rest of the lifetime. And you can see this shift throughout the dasha. So as you can see, we can analyze these dashas individually, but on a much deeper level, there's such an interconnection with our karma and our spiritual evolution and the relationship of these dashas as they transition into each other. And this is all just setting us up for, again, a summit on dasha, different methods of using dasha, different discussions of dasha in August 18th with Dr. Dharmesh, myself, Sunili, Sadasiva, and PVR. So we hope you will join all of us. And Dr. Dharmesh, thank you so much for sharing this time with me. I hope you feel the same as I do, that this is the start of something we will be doing much work together. And this is a great honor and pleasure for me. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you so much, Ji.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Namaste.